Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Reserved Investments. Thank you for joining me. This is part 7 of my 18,000 subscriber Q&A series. For those of you keeping track, we have a lot of good original content planned. I'm just putting out a video on my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2 platform that's been announced with a unique high price level for the systems and some of the games. You can get my thoughts on that in another video. We're also going to be talking about FOMO, how to avoid FOMO, fear of missing out, if you're buying and investing in antiques and collectibles, because now with social media, now with hype-driven YouTube algorithms and the like, people are just watching markets pop, watching other markets crash, and they're making very bad decisions, in my assessment, especially if they're trying to diversify into these markets over the long term. So we do have to have a discussion about that. But in today's video, we're going to dive right into the questions because we're still humming along here as part of the 18,000 subscriber Q&A series. So we begin with a question on rare coin investing. Sean, I would like to see more content on investing in high grade coins in the 2,000 plus range. Here are my questions. Is it okay to collect or invest in only one type of coin or series? Let me answer this right off the bat. Yes, it is, but I would encourage you, if you live in the United States and you're collecting US coins, go after a popular issue or series. For instance, if you're going to build a diversified collection of Morgan silver dollars, peace dollars, walking Liberty half dollars, or even $20 St. Gaudens gold pieces, you will always find a buyer for those coins. If you're going to go after what I call like a sleeper series, like Barber coinage, Liberty Shield nickels, items that are less popular, you're really going to have to go after high quality coins that have a lot of eye appeal, that are CAC stickered, that are either semi-scarce or very high end for the grade, simply because those coin series are less popular on the open market than that of your Morgans, your peace dollars, your $20 gold pieces, your walking Liberty halves, even Mercury dimes, Buffalo nickels. Those are all more popular coin series. But if you buy right, you'll do okay. There are collections of less popular coins that come on the market. And a lot of times, if the person bought right, if they went after coins with good eye appeal, if they went after coins in the optimal collecting grade, which is one of the techniques I teach on this channel, if they're CAC stickered, they do sell for a premium at auction. I would encourage you to study auction records from Heritage, Great Collections, and Stacks and Bowers, and you'll get an idea of how the rare coin market really works. But don't just look at auction records over the last 6 months or over the last year. Look at auction records, if possible. I know you can do this on Heritage, over the past 5 to 10 years. Get a really good history of where the coin market is right now and where it's come from through all the ups and downs. For instance, during the COVID collectibles boom, rare coins were trending at all-time high prices. Now, what's great about rare coins, they did drop a little, but they didn't crater like comic books did or like graded video games did. Now, the reason for that is the rare coin marketplace is more mature, it's more sophisticated. And every time I say that, I understand the little Timmies that collect Pokemon cards and all that other pop culture stuff, they get offended because they don't know anybody that collects rare coins. And what is it that I tell you guys? Birds of a feather flock together. Of course, if you're somebody that grew up with video games, Pokemon cards, and toys, you probably know other collectors of those markets. For you to meet somebody who collects coins, you actually kind of have to go outside your comfort zone, maybe turn off the computer, and actually go meet people to teach you about these markets. Or you could just watch Reserved Investments. But that's the best advice that I can give you. Really study the market, understand what you want to collect, and do the necessary research before spending any money. Now, you go on with a couple of more questions that I want to answer. Sean, would selling all at once during retirement negatively impact profits because the market must absorb the assets? It depends on what you're selling. For instance, I know people in the rare coin marketplace that do some stupid things. I know a dude that has like 5 different graded 1881 Carson City Morgan silver dollars. Now, obviously, if you have an 1881 Carson City Morgan silver dollar, yes, that is technically a scarce date coin, but if you have one in grade 63, 64, 65, 66, even if they're all CAC stickered, if you consign all 4 of those coins at the same time to the same auction company and they're put in the same auction, obviously that could affect the price, because somebody viewing that coin that just wants one example of those coins goes, oh, well, maybe this coin isn't that good to invest in because this person right here in this one auction just consigned 4 different grades of that same coin. So if you're going to do something like that, that will affect the market. But if you meticulously put together a collection of Morgan silver dollars and you have one 1881 Carson City silver Morgan dollar in MS66 condition, you have an 1882 Carson City Morgan silver dollar in MS65 condition, you have an 1883. You see where I'm going here? If you buy smart and you go after quality over quantity, if you go and consign that collection auction, you will most likely be rewarded. Now, I can't tell you what the rare coin marketplace is going to be doing when you choose to sell your coins into the marketplace at that time. But what I can tell you, if you buy right, if you put quality over quantity, you understand eye appeal, you understand the importance of CAC stickering, you're going to do just fine, because you can control all those factors. You cannot control what the overall economy is going to be doing at that time. You can't control what the market's going to be for or at for rare coins at that time. This is a mistake that most speculators and investors do not understand. And actually, I did a video on this. It's called The Factors of Control. You have to look at what you can control in your sphere of influence when you make any type of investment decision, because that's going to impact your success. You have to start with an exit plan. And a lot of the Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters that come to me in the comments and go, oh my God, it's Pokemon or Super Mario. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. That's why I have my net worth. And some of you, I hate to say this, are living paycheck to paycheck struggling right now. You have to understand how to properly allocate capital and how to invest intelligently in any market, whether it's the financial markets, whether you're in the market right now for a house, that's the real estate market, or you're attempting to diversify in antiques and collectibles. This is vital, guys. You have a couple of more questions here that I want to answer. You'll want to ask, how important is diversification in a rare coin portfolio? Diversification is the only free lunch you have as an investor. That's why I will tell you, if you're not going to go after popular issues like peace dollars, Morgan silver dollars, walking Liberty halves, Mercury dimes, Buffalo nickels, $20 gold pieces, you should diversify your holdings. That works best. So if you live in the United States, you want to collect classic coins, go after popular issues, you can even diversify among popular issues. I usually tell people, hey, if you want to collect some Morgan silver dollars, peace dollars, Mercury dimes, then if you want to go after a sleeper series like Barber coinage or Liberty Shield nickels, do that, and that's a good diversification hedge. So diversification is really your only free lunch that you get in investing. You have a couple of more questions here. What do you think about investing in tone coins? I personally would not pay a premium for a beautifully toned coin. That's just my opinion. I tend to like natural coins in appearance. I also tend to go after, for certain issues, and I know this is controversial, blast white coins. But really, if you're going to invest in Morgan silver dollars, walking Liberty halves, even peace dollars, for the most part, people who collect those issues do tend to pay a premium for blast white coins. And I'm not going to expand on that any further. I can tell you, though, that is the mindset overall. I do know there was a trend several decades back where people were paying a premium for some of these iridescently toned Morgan silver dollars. And it did turn out, not all, but some of that toning was deemed later to be faked. So you really have to be careful what you're buying. On the flip side, if you go after truly blast white coins, there was a period in time in the coin collecting marketplace where coins were dipped. They were dipped in an acetone solution to pretty much clean the coin and delete or dissolve any corrosion or toning on the coin. Now today, these coins are still out there on the market. They've been graded by third-party grading companies. A lot of them have even been CAC stickered. If a coin has been dipped in acetone properly, it really doesn't take away anything from the coin, in my opinion. I know there's going to be some old timers in the comment section below that disagree because they hate dipped coins. I personally am of the opinion where I personally really don't like toned coins. So I'm a little bit different. I am somewhat of a younger collector when we talk about the age of a lot of coin collectors that have tons, if not decades of experience. Keep in mind, I'm approaching 50. There's a lot of these guys that are in their 70s and 80s. So some of them will disagree with me. You have one more question about coins here that I do want to answer. Have you heard any good or bad things about the Hugh Wood Insurance Company for insuring coins and currency? What I will tell you is they're a great company to work with overall, but you do have to be a member of the American Numismatic Association to do business with them. Now, you can get a membership through the ANA. I think it's less than like $50 a year. So it's really not that expensive, and you're actually helping the hobby grow. But I will tell you, you definitely have to be a member of the ANA for Hugh Wood Insurance Company to be willing to insure your coins and currency collection. Now, we spent 12 minutes almost talking about coins. Let's go in a different direction here. Sean, thank you for all your hard work on this channel and congratulations on 18,000 subscribers. I wanted to ask you about comic books and foreign edition collecting. I personally collect foreign edition comic books because it's enjoyable to me and I see it as a niche collecting category. But there are people who claim that foreign edition collecting in comics will be the next big thing. Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. We have to look at the history of comic books here. Over the last 20 years, even beyond, comic books have always been an American-driven pastime. If we look even now, with the comic book market kind of in a bust cycle at present time, prices have fallen significantly from their highs of just a few years ago. If we look at the market is primarily driven by American superhero comic books, and second would be horror-based comic books. So as a result, I don't see foreign edition comic books becoming the next big thing simply because they would have already became the next big thing during the run-up in prices that we had right around the COVID era. Why now would foreign edition collecting become a thing when pretty much the overall comic book marketplace is in, I don't want to say the toilet, but it's pretty much in a down cycle at present time? This would make no sense to me. I do know there are niche collectors out there. They'll go after an American, a US copy of like Amazing Spider-Man 129, and then they'll want to go seek out like a German copy or a foreign edition copy just to add it to their collection. But if you look at the price trajectory of those books, the American copy is what most collectors want. Always remember, comic book collecting is driven primarily by the US market. Now, I do know our friends across the pond in England, in the United Kingdom, there are certain comic books over there that were produced specifically for that market. US collectors, by and large, are not going after those books. And even in the United Kingdom, they have limited appeal because, again, most comic book collectors want superhero books or horror books that were first introduced in America back in the day, meaning back in the late 40s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, and the like. That's what's pretty much driving this market. Now, you go on to ask, do you know of any collectible markets where foreign editions have become a big collecting category? Is there a big market for foreign stamps or coins or first edition books, for example? Let me give you two examples where foreign collecting is a thing. And this is going to probably surprise a lot of people on this channel. Typically, if we look at stamps, In the United States, stamps are pretty much dead, especially if you collect American stamps, not accounting for the top 5% of the market, which is always on fire at any given time. Doesn't say that there hasn't been price decreases in that top 5% of the market, but most US-born collectors of stamps are not collecting stamps at present time. In the United Kingdom, however, United Kingdom collectors go after stamps that were produced in the United Kingdom. Those stamps have a lot of value on the secondary market. So if we look at the market for stamp collecting, in America, it's pretty much dead. In the United Kingdom, it's still booming. Now, how does this come into play with what you just asked, where you're asking, is there a big market for foreign edition stamps or coins or other first edition books, for example? The answer is overall no, with few exceptions. But when we look at markets like Pokemon or vintage video games, those markets are what we call in the trade multicultural. So for instance, I don't know if you're aware of this because I don't know your background, I don't know your age. But if you remember back in the 1990s, if you lived in America, the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis were running strong. You could walk into a video game store, you could pull a copy of Electronic Gaming Monthly off the shelf, and if you would page towards the back end of that magazine, you would see advertisements for import video games. I was huge in to import video games. The import video game scene was incredible back in the day, where you had a lot of companies would release games, incredible arcade versions of certain games, only in Japan. And sometimes these games would never come to the US. So if you wanted to play a certain arcade title on the Sega Saturn, you would pretty much have to order the import copy. Well, today, there is a huge thriving market. A lot of these import games are now selling for a premium on the secondary market because of the video game boom. The same thing occurred with Pokemon. For instance, I collect vintage Pokemon cards. I don't just collect US versions, I collect Japanese versions of those cards as well. So when we talk about video games and Pokemon, both of those markets really originated in Japan. Well, as a result, they're multicultural. So there's a lot of collectors that will collect Japanese era video games as well as US video games. Japanese era Pokemon cards as well as US Pokemon cards. So certain markets, just by their nature, just how they were created and where they were popularized or where their home country is at, they have multicultural appeal. So I hope that answers your question. Next question. Sean, you've previously mentioned firearms and edged weapons as types of an investment class antique. Can you do a video on the special considerations for investing in these? Yes, for those unaware, I do have exposure to this market. I do own guns. I do own edged weapons. I do own some of these vintage and antique artifacts. My collection isn't that big simply because it's much easier for me to invest in graded coins and currency. And those items are more liquid on the secondary market than a lot of these particular types of relics. But I do play in this market and I have a lot of knowledge in this market. The problem is I don't know the rules surrounding the YouTube algorithm, where if I did do a video like this, it would most likely be a limited video where I wouldn't show a lot of my holdings. What I would do is do more of like a Q&A, telling you what to look for, how to allocate capital in these markets, how to properly invest over the long term if that's what you want to do. I would also go over the current items that are selling for a premium, a lot of guns, a lot of weapons that are currently being hyped right now, what the investment potential of those items are. Let me know in the comment section below if you want me to do a video on this. Now keep in mind, guys, my time is limited. I do my best on this channel. If you do want me to do a video on this, it would probably take 6 months to a year for me to realistically take some time, plan it out, record it, and then upload it. So I just want you guys to be aware it's going to take months, if not a full year, for me to get to that video. But if it's something you want to see, just let me know and we could probably do something like that. I don't want to risk the channel, meaning I'm not going to do anything where I'm really not going to show a major collection of firearms or edged weapons, because again, I don't know how YouTube will respond to that, especially given the fact that I'm kind of pigeonholed into the investing collectible space, even men's advice as regards to the YouTube algorithm. That's how they see my channel. So if I come down here and I show like a table full of weapons, I'm probably going to face some critique from the all-important YouTube algorithm. So it'd be interesting to see how that turns out. But I could probably do something like this in a limited capacity. Just let me know your thoughts. Next question. Sean, I have a side business where I vend at gaming conventions across the East Coast throughout the year. I was presented with the opportunity to buy a game collection worth high five figures at a reasonably fair price, 60% of market value. The problem I have, I already have a good amount of inventory and consistently get smaller collections in, and I have a wife and 2 young kids, and I don't want to take my time away from them to process this much inventory and hustle to sell it all. I have the liquid cash to make the purchase without issue, and it would be great to get loads of inventory all at once, but I don't want to sacrifice my personal life for this second job. Okay, you already answered your own question here, but I can give you an alternate spin on this, which is what we do here at Reserved Investments. So please listen fully until the end here if you ask this question. The first thing I will tell you, the most valuable time you have in the world, the most valuable commodity you have in the world is time. There's a lot of idiots out there that claim that they would love to switch places with Warren Buffett. The problem is, I don't think a lot of you realize Warren Buffett is a crusty old man. So even if you had access to his money at any given time, he could pretty much kick the bucket. And that's not a critique of Warren Buffett. Please, if Warren Buffett does end up watching this video, which is 1 in a billion chances, I'm not criticizing you, Warren Buffett. I'm just saying, I think that you know better than anybody else, time is the most valuable commodity we have. So for instance, I would not be willing to switch places, especially already facing, I'm 48 years of age. So within another 2 years, I'm going to be 50. I would not want to switch places with anybody that is older than me, regardless of circumstance at present time. Time is the most valuable commodity we have. Always remember that. So you really answered your question here, where you're stating that you don't want to take time away from your wife and kids. So what I would tell you to do is think outside the proverbial box here. Do you know of anybody out there that would love to get their hands on a collection like this for 60% of the market value, where they could give you a finder's fee, or they can give you some type of kickback for giving them the opportunity to buy this collection? And before anybody says anything, this is not unethical. Antique dealers, other dealers in the collectibles trade do this all the time. It's called either a finder's fee or a kickback. Meaning somebody came to you and said, hey, I have this collection. I need cash now. I'm willing to let it go at 60% of the market value. You're stating you don't want to take time away from your wife, your kids. How about reaching out to somebody else and saying, hey, I got the opportunity to buy the 60% of the value. All is what I want is like 2 or 3% of the sales price when you profit from this. If you can kick that back to me, I'll give you this offer. I just don't have time to process this collection. If you can do that, you can still make money and you have the best of both worlds. You can still spend time with your wife and kids, and somebody else can also eke out profit here. So it kind of works for all of you guys involved, including the seller, because he gets cash today for these items. So that's what I would tell you to do. You have to think outside the box. Always remember, guys, back in the day, when I started in the antiques and collectibles trade, even with the rise of eBay, things were completely different. Relationships mattered. A lot of people did not understand the power of the internet back then. So in 1995, 1996, when eBay came on the scene, all the way really up to like 2005, it was pretty much free money. I hate to say this, it was free tendies. You could pretty much go to a flea market, yard sale, antique mart. You could buy something, flip it on eBay that weekend, and if you knew what you were doing and you invested intelligently, you were pretty much set for life. And when I say that, I'm talking, I know people that have walked away from eBay just after doing it for 10 years back in the day with millions of dollars put away for the rest of their lives. I mean, this was uncommon. Don't get me wrong. You really had to work at it. You had to know what you were doing. You had to invest intelligently, but it could be done. Today, the antiques and collectibles trade has changed so much that pretty much everybody with a smartphone, a computer, anybody who has access to TikTok, YouTube, they already know the values of these items because it's thrown at us 24/7 now. Even the news media. Back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, the news media would report on high-end sales of coins, art, certain antiques, the occasional pop culture collectible that would sell for a new record high. But it wasn't like today where if you subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, almost on a weekly basis, there's a discussion about investing in fine art. There's a discussion about diversifying in the collectibles, antiques, alternate asset investing. It was never like it was today back in the 1990s. And as a result, you had more of an opportunity to make money. Today, what I'm getting at is you really have to think outside the box. So if you can partner with other people out there and say, hey, I have access to this collection. I want to spend time with my family. That's more important to me. But if you throw me a few bucks, I'll give you access to this and you can reap some profits. That could be a win-win for you both. So that's what I'm telling you. Always remember, I know that sometimes I come off a little bit avoidant, I think, on this channel. But just understand, I'm going to say something that's probably going to shock all of you. No man is an island. If you really want to succeed in the antiques and collectibles trade, you really have to put yourself out there. You really have to talk to a lot of people. You have to talk to different collectors, speculators, investors, people that don't share your same worldviews. I know, shocking in this day and age. But you really have to talk to other people and see what they're doing in these markets. And if you can build friendships, relationships, partnerships that are not toxic, that are not one-sided, that benefit you both, that's great for all participants in the market. So that's what I would tell you. Think outside the box. I'm going to stop there because this is a good place to stop for part 7. We will resume part 8 very quickly. I am trying to get through all these questions. I thank you for your patience. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, if you are subscribed to this channel, I just may very well see you in an upcoming video.